Hare Krishna, welcome to my Radha Madhav channel. This is Sindhu here. Today I've come up with a very beautiful, interesting topic of discussion. Who am I? Does the soul exist? And basically the importance of balancing the mind, body and soul on a daily basis. That's what we're going to be seeing today. Let me start with a small prayer. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshashunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Tatati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurum Shri Utapada Kamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Chagrajatam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपीशा गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगे राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वंशाकल्पतरुभ्यस्य कृपा सिन्धुभैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद नमो ओं विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिन्निति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यादेशतारिणे हरे कृष्ण हरे कृष्ण हरे कृष्ण हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Let me start with a small introduction. Then we can go on to the detail about the soul as per in the Bhagavad Gita. A simple test for thoughtful people. Am I my head or my face? No, it is my face. Am I my chest? No, it is my chest. Am I my arm or my hand? Am I my leg? No, it is my leg. All the parts of my body, indeed my entire body is mine. But who am I? The owner of the body? Am I my arm? Am I my leg? Am I the chest? Am I the face? Who am I? The owner of the body? If we perform the experiment as above, as this I told you, we can immediately come to the very first understanding in spiritual life that we are not our bodies. Rather, we are conscious of them. Under the influence of illusion, however, we falsely identify ourselves with our bodies and think that we belong to a certain family, nation, race, religion, political party and so on. The goal of human life is to awaken from this illusion and become reinstated in our real identities as fully conscious spiritual beings. Our daily lives can be compared to acting in a play or a skit. We have become so absorbed with our temporary roles in this play that we have completely forgotten our true offstage identities. Someone is taking the part of a parent in our lives. Another person is taking part as a lover in our lives. Another as our friend, dear friend or foe. Foe means enemy, but actually it is all simply a performance. Our real identities are something else. Our very bodies are nothing more than the costumes. But out of illusion, we identify ourselves with them and we try to relate to others on the basis of these costumes. The resulting relationships are not false, they are real, but they are temporary and they are illusory when the certain, when the curtain falls on our play. That's what is given in Bhagavad Gita. Like when the death comes, all the different relationships we have cultivated during our whole lives will be finished and our real self, an individually conscious spirit soul, will be transferred to a new situation. In Bhagavad Gita verse 13.34, Lord Shri Krishna says, Yata prakashayat ekah krishtam lokam imam ravihi kshetram kshetri tata krishtam prakashayati bharata. I repeat, Yata prakashayet ekah krishtam lokam imam ravihi kshetram kshetri tata krishtam prakashayati bharata. Meaning, as the sun situated in one place illuminates the entire universe. See, if we can see the sun, it doesn't mean that we can directly, the sun is on our head. That is the analogy given here. through the rays only we are able to experience the power of the sun or the power of the light or the heat, whatever it is. Similarly, the super soul, the God, is also like that. It doesn't mean directly he is with us. Through his, he is situated, he illuminates the entire body. He is situated within our hearts. Just as the sunshine proves the sun is present in the sky, consciousness proves the soul is present in the body. When the soul leaves the body, the consciousness disappears and the body dies. Thus, the consciousness is a symptom of the soul's presence in the body. So, because we belong to the superior spiritual energy, we can't understand our true identity or achieve external happiness and full knowledge if we continue to act on the false platform of inferior material energy. But if all our relationships in this material world are temporary and illusory, then with whom we can establish a meaningful and lasting ever eternal relationship? Of course, Jai Shri Krishna. Right? Lord Krishna gives answers to this question in the verses 9th chapter 17 and 18 beautiful verses. Pitaham asya jagato matha data pitamaha vedyam pavitram omkara hrik samayachur evacha. He says, I am the father of this universe, the mother and the support and the most dear friend. Gatir bharta prabhu sakshi nivashah sharanam shukrit prabhava pralayasthanam nidhanam bijam avyayam. Meaning, I am the goal, sustainer, master, most dear friend. Thus, we do not have to give up our personal relationships altogether, but rather we re-establish our real eternal relationship with our most dear, dear, dear Lord, Shri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Hari Bol. The Lord also explains in the Bhagavad Gita how this material world is actually a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. Everything in this material world is there in Lord Krishna's abode, but in its ideal perfect form. Like for example, in eternal abode of the Lord, there are trees, animals, flowers, people, everything is there. But unlike in the material world, they all exist in intimate loving relationships with Krishna. Each of us has a place in the spiritual world. It is also quoted in the Bhagavad Gita, like we can either be born when we are true devotees of Krishna, we can either be as a peacock in the Krishna's abode, or as a bird, or as a flower, or as a tree, or it depends on our thoughts and our actions at before the time of and leaving the body, right? So each of us has a space in the spiritual world, for that is a real eternal home. As spiritual beings, we are not meant for this temporary world of matter. We are like a fish out of the water. Just as a fish can never be happy with any number of comforts outside the water. What it wants, actually it wants to be inside the water. Doesn't want to go anywhere. Whatever comforts is there in the outside. So we can never be truly happy outside of the spiritual atmosphere of Krishna's abode. That's what is stated here. If we persist in trying to find pleasure in this material world, only repeated frustration and suffering await us. But if we make it our only business to cultivate an eternal relationship with Krishna while we are here, we can gain re-entry into the transcendental realm of Vaikuntha, the world without anxieties, and attain a life of complete knowledge and endless bliss. Hari Bol. So let's see some description of the Atma. What is given in the Bhagavad Gita. Basically, 7 features of the soul are beautifully presented in the Bhagavad Gita. Number 1, the soul is a living entity. The Bhagavad Gita plainly states that the soul is a living entity that's able to have experiences of reality around it. It's a very source of consciousness. The soul or the living entity is also referred to as the knower of the field of the activities of the body. The soul pervades the entire body. Means the soul is spread all over the body as consciousness. This spreading of consciousness is limited within one's body. One is unaware of the pains and pleasures of the others. Therefore, each and every body is embodiment of an individual soul. The soul is separate, right? So we are not aware of what. Only if someone tells you it is hurting here, we understand that. Because the soul is different. It has an individual soul. Number 3, third feature is that for the soul, there is neither birth nor death at any time. The soul has no past, present or future. The body of the living entity is subject to 6 kinds of transformations given here. It takes its birth in the womb of a mother's body, remains for some time, grows, produces some effects, gradually dwindles, and at last vanishes into oblivion. The soul, however, doesn't go through any such changes. The soul is not born, but because it takes on a material body, the body takes its birth. The soul does not take birth there, and the soul does not die. The soul has no past, present, or future. Number 4, the soul is indestructible, unbreakable, and insoluble. Meaning the soul cannot be cut into pieces by any weapon, nor it can be burnt by fire, nor moistened by water, nor withered by the wind. It is indestructible and unbreakable. All souls are therefore eternally separated individuals. Number 5, the soul is unchangeable, immovable, and eternally the same. The matter is continuously subject to all kinds of changes due to the influence of time. But unlike matter, the soul is never subject to any change, since it is not under the influence of time. It is actually an eternally separated atomic part of the spirit whole. It remains the same atom there eternally without change. Number 6, the soul is invisible, inconceivable, and immeasurable. The soul is consciousness, and the soul is consciousness, and the consciousness, it is thus invisible and inconceivable. It is only consciousness and consciousness. That's what's given here. It's transcendental to mere matter. Last feature, the soul accepts new bodies, giving up old ones, just like a person puts on new garments, giving up his or her old ones. Material bodies being made from matter are constantly changing. Thus, the soul is constantly getting new bodies to be embodied into. Similarly, the time of leaving the body, the soul accepts the another material body. Right? We all know this. And also it is mentioned that the soul is very, 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 very small in size. Right? Not even the tip of the hair. That much is the size of the soul. So meter, 0.000 meter, some measurement of size. But it is the most powerful. It is the most spiritual spark. That is the soul. Without soul, nothing. That is the, it is more or less like a living entity. It pervades the entire body. It has nothing. It is indestructible. We also, there are so many verses, qualities also mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. Let's see. Now, references to the soul, what is given in the Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita acknowledges the existence of both God and the individual souls as eternal realities. It believes in the incarnation of individual souls, the delusion and bondage, and to the cycle of births and deaths because of the gunas or qualities and desires, hidden actions. It also suggests various solutions for their salvation. The scriptures dwells upon various subjects like death, release of soul from the body, its ascent to the higher worlds, it incarnates, reincarnates, or return to the earth, the continued cycle of birth and death, its relationship with God, and how it can find itself with the help of God, and so on. According to it, the soul or Atma is indestructible, eternal. As we saw in the verse, 2nd chapter, 18th verse, Antavanta ime deha nityas yoktaha shariranah anashino prameyasya tasmad yudyasya bharata. It says, the material body of the indestructible, immeasurable, eternal living entity is sure to come to an end, therefore fight, O descendant of Bharata. Krishna says to Arjuna here. The next verse is, so what is mentioned here? It's never born, never dies. After coming into existence, it never ceases to be. It is Nitya. Nitya means it is always. It is always. After coming into existence, it never ceases to be. Sarvataha, permanent, and Purana, very ancient. It does not suffer nor it can be tainted. It's given in 2.20 verse. Na jayate mriyate va kadachin nayam bhutva bhavita va na bhuyah ajo nitya shashvatoyam purano na hanyate hanyamane sharire. What the meaning says, the soul, there is neither birth nor death. He has come into being, does not come into being, will not come into being. He is unborn, eternal, ever existing, primeval. He is not slain, but the body is slain. And at the time when he leaves, the body leaves, enters a new one. That is again given in verse 2.22. Vashamsi jirnani yata vihaya navani grihnati naroparani tata sharirani vihaya jirnani anyani samyati navani dehi. I already explained this. As a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, the soul similarly accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones. Then weapons cannot pierce it, fire cannot burn it, water cannot moisten it. See how many characteristics of souls Krishna has given here, and wind cannot dry it. It's again given in 23. Nainam chintanti shastrani nainam dahati pavakaha nachainam kledayanti apo na shoshayati marutah. The soul can never be cut into pieces by any weapon, nor burned by fire, nor moistened by water, nor withered by the wind. It is impenetrable, incombustible, all-pervading, stable and immobile. Again, it's given about in 24 and 25 verses. It is invisible, right? Immutable, inconceivable. So you should not grieve for the body. That is what is given here. And the Bhagavad Gita knows the limitations of human mind to gauge the true nature of the soul. Hence, it concurs with the popular notion that no one exactly knows what a soul is. One looks at it with great surprise, another hears it about with incredulity, means unwilling to accept it, and yet another, after hearing it, knows it is not. That is again a verse given in 2.29. Let's read the verse also, that one also. Ascharyavat pashyati kaschid enam, ascharyavat vadati tataiva chanyah, ascharyavat chainam anya shrunoti, shrutvapi enam vedana chaiva kaschid. So what Krishna says here, some look onto the soul as amazing, some describe him as amazing, some hear of him as amazing, while others even after hearing him cannot understand him at all. The soul is superior to everything else in the human being. The senses are greater than the senses in the mind. Greater than the mind is buddhi, and greater than the buddhi is the self. And the soul is the highest eternal reality, tattva. Whereas the senses, mind, intelligence, etc. are finite and dependent realities. It's given in 3rd chapter 42 verse. Let's read the verse. 3rd chapter 42. Indriyani parani ahur indriyebhya param manah manashastu para buddhir yo buddhe parantastu sha. The working senses are superior to dull matter. Mind is higher than the senses. Intelligence is higher than the mind, and the soul is even higher than the intelligence. That's what I told you. The soul residing in the body is referred to as indwelling witness, the Adi Yajna. We are told that when Purusha, also known as Adi Daiva, controlling deity, resides in the body, as the inner witness, he becomes Adi Yajna, or the seat of sacrifice, which is again mentioned in 8th chapter 4th verse. Let us see what the soul residing in the body is talked about. 8th chapter 4th verse. Adibhutam sharo bhavah purushas chadi daivatam adi yajno ham evatra dehe deha britham yara. Meaning, O best of the embodied beings, the physical nature which is constantly changing is called Adibhuta, the material manifestation. The universal form of the Lord, which includes all the demigods like those of the sun and the moon, is called Adi Deva. And I, the Supreme Lord, represented as super soul in the heart of every embodied being, am called Adi Yajna, the Lord of sacrifice. So, hope you are all very clear about these qualities of the soul which I have mentioned. I would like to conclude this topic on the importance of balancing the body, mind and soul by a small few lines. Self-realization is the ultimate goal of all the yogas or spiritual paths which are discussed in the Bhagavad Gita. Right? The purpose of any spiritual discipline is to restrain the senses and stabilize the mind. These two barriers one must overcome to know oneself. The Bhagavad Gita says that condition is the aim of all the yoga, in which through the practice of yoga the mind becomes still, in which the self beholds the self within and is absorbed in the self, in which the yogi finds supreme ecstasy. Apart from the senses, the gunas, or the three modes of material nature, we all know that goodness mode, sattvic mode, passion mode, ignorance mode. So they play an important role in the bondage of the soul. So the mind and the intellect become clouded and the ego takes control of them. It is also the cause of actions and the resultant karma. Briefly, this is the concept of the soul we find in the Bhagavad Gita. So to conclude today's topic, I would like to just state some few hope-giving and life-changing verses as to should we listen to our mind or should we listen to the spirit soul. The question always comes in our hearts, isn't it? So what Shri Krishna says, let's see. Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishto matta smritir jnanam apohanam cha vedaischa sarvair aham veva vedyo vedanta krit veda vid eva chaham. What Krishna says, such a beautiful verse, I'll repeat. Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishto matta smritir jnanam apohanam cha vedaischa sarvair aham eva vedyo vedanta krit veda vid eva chaham. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas, I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedanta, and I am the knower of the Vedas. So, Krishna is always there with us in our hearts, residing in our hearts as Paramatma, the heart region, or the super soul. And again, he talks in a verse 61st verse 18th chapter, Ishvara sarva bhuthanam hriddeshe arjuna tishtati Brahmayan sarva bhutani yantra rudani mayayah. It's also a beautiful motivational verse. Ishvaraha sarva bhutanam hriddeshe arjuna tishtati Brahmayan sarva bhutani yantra rudani mayaya. Meaning, the Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing the wandering of all living entities who are seated as on a machine made of the material energy. So Krishna promises Arjuna that I am as a super soul residing in your heart as Paramatma, and our consciousness is contaminated, and because of that we are not able to think rightly. So there are 4 things we could listen to in our lives. We can gain more clarity. Number 1, senses. We can listen to the senses, we can listen to our mind, or we can listen to our intelligence. Mind and intelligence, we can listen to the spirit soul, or we can listen to Krishna. We have 4 options. Senses is what? It's basically gratifying senses. We tell our eyes, see this movie, watch this movie, and we say our tongue, taste this delicious food in the restaurant, which is very, very yummy. So it says, in the mind listens to so many of these feelings, emotions and all, and it goes according. It makes a choice. I will have this, I will do this today, I want this, I want, right? It's a gratification, sense gratification. Sorry, the ad keeps popping up again. And so we listen, so right? So feelings and intelligence, they are like the filter, right? We have the intelligence, so that intelligence will make us think, okay, what we are doing now, this is right, that is wrong. But the problem is that we don't listen to our mind at times. We dominate our mind. We think that what we are thinking is the right, and because we are strongly addicted, we overpower that intelligence within us. A very beautiful example given is a cigarette packet. Everyone knows in the cigarette packet there is a strict warning that it is injurious to health. Everyone, in spite of seeing it, they smoke. They have that habit. They can't go away by it, right? So what happens? That is it's like covering the cloud. That's what I was explaining before. And listening to the soul needs only Krishna, as it's a part and parcel of Shri Krishna. Like how the fish example I was giving, all it wants is to stay in the water, nothing else. Even if it gets a ticket to go to, example, to another London or any other city or anything, it doesn't want to go anywhere. Just wherever it is, it wants to be inside the water. Similarly, our souls are like those fishes who are hankering only for Krishna, because ultimately we are from his home. So that is our ultimate destination. But just because we wanted to be independent and we wanted to enjoy our lives without we came here to this material world. I've already explained this in several classes. And we are after sense gratification and material comfort. So it's human. We are all like that. So when we listen to the soul, we succeed. That is the intelligence. A super soul speaks to us through these Bhagavad Gita, these beautiful scriptures, Bhagavatam. And when we listen to the words of Shri Krishna, and when we have our minds controlled, when we try to control our mind, we actually listen to the soul. And when we listen to the through the bona fide spiritual master, our senses, mind, everything comes in line with the wants of the spirit soul. That's it for today, my dear friends and devotees. Hope you enjoyed the session on the soul and learned so many beautiful aspects and the Atma, about the Atma, and the importance of balancing the body, mind, and soul. I take leave for today. I'll catch you all with another beautiful motivational video. Until then, Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayabhyo Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Please give your valuable likes and comments. Hare Krishna.